Good morning, Alberto. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. And good morning, Domenica. It's my pleasure to meet you.
Absolute pleasure having you here. And so Alberto joins us from Italy and has a wealth of experience, over 30 years, I believe, in the China market, both based in China as well as based in Europe. And we're here today to talk about planning. This is something that we talk about a lot, isn't it?
It is.
We both deal with British and European brands who are looking to crack the China market, and all too often our brands focus on the wrong problem. So when we talk about planning, from your standpoint, what's your biggest frustration that you face in terms of brands coming to you, wanting a solution and wanting to skip the planning bit?
Well, the biggest frustration as usual is that brands usually, they understand that China is the destination market they need to focus to. And they have read about it. They know some names of platforms and digital solutions that are available in China, which are different from the West. And they come to me and said, okay, how much does it cost to have a WeChat account? Or how much does it cost to open an official Weibo account or Douyin account or Xiaohongshu account or stuff like that? Okay, and I go like, yeah, it's easy. Most of them are free of charge to register and to have it complied, okay, but that's not the point, okay? Is it what you want? Is it that you really want just an official account to be registered for you to be present, or is it something more that you want about it? And then I turn the question. I go like, okay, but what is your position within the Chinese market? I mean, who are you in China? And 99.9% of the times, the answer is, we are starting now. And I said, okay, so if you're starting now, can I assume that you are zero in China? And when I mean zero, I mean that you are nobody, and nobody knows who you are and what you have done and what you do and what your products are. And obviously the answer is yes. Even it's not nice to be told that you are nobody, because maybe you spent the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years in Europe building up your brands and your reputation, and you have done an excellent job. But that's not the point. Doing an excellent job in Europe means running a business in Europe, okay? Having a presence in China means that they know what you do. But if you have never done anything in China, okay, it's very rare that people associate your name, your brands, to what you do in Europe. Okay, so even thought that we are all now in an open world where communication gives us a very wide view on the market. The real pain point is that you are nobody, and then you need to start from zero. Okay, so the very first thing is, okay, let's go and see what is your IP, what is it your intellectual property that you need to protect. And starting from there, then I start to give them some strategies and some path to follow so that they could achieve results and grow up in the market, or at least protect their assets, because this is the first and most important things in China. Before even talking about WeChat accounts or whatever, okay? It's not the marketing, it's the asset. Protect your asset first and then go further on.
I agree. I mean, I think from our standpoint, exactly the same. Brands will come to us wanting to be successful in China, and they haven't done the basics first. You wouldn't enter any other market without thinking, well, what is my operational structure in China going to be? Yeah. How am I going to recruit staff and pay them? How am I going to distribute my product? How am I even going to get my product there? And all of this has to come first as a what I call a corporate operational plan, which is your area of expertise. Then we can look at, okay, who are we targeting? Who are the customers in China? And all too often brands will say to me, well, we just want to target women. That's billions of people. That's going to be very expensive. You know, you need to narrow that down to niches, to clusters of behavior within very, very, very sort of like finite demographic groups and different behavioral groups. They will hang out in different places, and then that will form your strategy for your promotional marketing, and to some extent for your operations as well. So if you're going to do cross-border from Italy, from Spain, from France, from the UK, that's a very different operational structure to if you decide you want to operate on, say, an e-commerce platform like Tmall, because you'll need to have a wholly owned foreign enterprise then. It's a very different strategy if you want to find a distributor. So this brings me on to the next question, and this is what an awful lot of brands here in the UK especially, why they will actually make a decision either not to go to China, or they'll sit on the decision for many years, is where do I start? So I've decided I want to go to the China market. I've done my research. I know there's a market there. I know who wants my product. I know I can compete locally, domestically, as well as globally. They've done their due diligence. They've got a lawyer. They've sorted out all their IP. The next step is, well, how is my product going to get to the consumer? Now, there are many ways, and we talked about this on an operational vlog a couple of weeks ago, distributors, JVs. But what are the things that brands need to be thinking about when they're making those decisions?
Before making that decision is, can I afford to go there? You know, this is a very simple question, okay? But there is a lot of money to be involved in your China marketing strategy. You know, most likely people, when they go to China, brands, when they go to China, they think that they're going to fish on an artificial lake, you know, where they put the fish in the lake, you know, they put the fish in the pond, okay? And then you just go there, no matter what fishing tools you have, you just put down the line, and then something gonna hook up on the bite, okay? But that's a problem. China is an ocean, is an open ocean without boundaries, and it's very, very deep. So difficult to find fishes. Even we know they're all there. Yeah. Okay. So the investment that we need to put into places is very high, and we're not just talking about the investment of opening a JD account or a Tmall account and the stuff. You know, we're talking about how to talk to people. Yeah. And let me tell you a little secret, which is so obvious, okay, but nobody really think about the real meaning of it. It doesn't need a Chinese speaker to speak to Chinese. I mean, even if you know the language, you need to know what to say. You need to know what to talk about. Yeah. So it's not necessary to be a Chinese language masterminder to be able to speak to the Chinese people. You need really someone who understands the consumer psychology and knows what is going on and what to talk about. And most likely what you need to talk about in China is not what you are used to talk about your brands and products in the West. The message is so different, even if you're talking about the same products. The way to introduce, the way to present, the catch points of the same products are different. So you need to talk, you need to be able to know how to talk to Chinese before you can speak Chinese. And for this, you really need an expert, a local expert. And so my recommendation for the customers is always, okay, let's investigate and find someone who understands about your Western market and your Western mentality, but has been living enough, long enough in China to understand the local market, to understand how to speak to Chinese, and to understand the pros and the cons of transmitting a certain message to the Chinese market. And this is where the most intense operation is, because the money you spend now is the money that you will not waste later. Yeah. Is the money that you will not lose running the business operation, because you have already protected not only your IP and assets, but you're protecting the message you transfer to the Chinese market. So there won't be any misunderstanding.
I totally agree. And I think there's two things here. I think one is to work with experts in market that will do your contract negotiation, that will choose whether it's your agents, your distributors, channels. So they're effectively a conduit. So it goes beyond language, and it goes into legal, understanding legal and operational processes and culture. And
mostly culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And similarly, when targeting consumers, B2B or B2C, you have to understand their triggers, their psychology, and their needs and wants on a global marketplace. All too often, European brands perceive and make assumptions that their brand is popular in China, and it may be completely unknown, as you've well said, or more importantly, how that brand will be used, because behavior and culture is completely different. And you are on the global stage, and European brands are competing with US brands, Australian and New Zealand, and domestic brands, APAC brands. And there's always an assumption, well, we're doing really well here in Europe, so we will do really well in China. And you need to do your due diligence first.
Absolutely.
We were talking about this morning. I mean, I had a customer yesterday who had a very small budget. I mean, we're talking less than an amount to pay, say, a KOL. And the assumption was, well, we have a couple of interns that speak Chinese, Domenica, they'll do our marketing. And this comes down to, it isn't about the language or just about the language, it's about what you say. And that goes for a business meeting context as well as an outreach context. Because if you just basically do copy or speech in Chinese without it having any context, without it actually resonating, it's noise. And we look a bit stupid, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, there are so many markets in China doing so well that have been well established in the China market for 10, 20, 30 years. And then we go in there all guns blazing. Well, we're British or we're Italian and, you know, our brand and everybody knows it.
Yeah, made in Italy. Everybody wants it. That's it. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly. And I think that there is a lot to be said for leaving your ego at the door when it comes to dealing with China and accepting that you are going to have to negotiate and persuade, usually, and I would recommend, and so would you, with an expert like yourself, to get a partner to work with you. Whereas in the UK, there is this sentiment, well, if they're a media owner, they'll want to work with me, I'm the customer. If they're a distributor, they'll want to work with me, I'm the customer. Not so in China. I mean, you have years and years of experience, over 30 years of experience, you speak fluent Chinese, you've worked and lived in China. So from a standpoint of assumptions, this is a key critical piece, I think. A lot of British brands will go, but Domenica, 2 years ago we had an agreement and I still don't have a contract. And I've found out that they've gone and they've replicated my product. They've done the production line and now I can't stop it. So from a protection perspective, what should you be doing at the outset as a brand? You touched on IP, but just a little bit more depth as to what happened.
It is indeed a much more depth. Okay, but logically, you know, if you want to go jogging, you need to tie your shoes. Okay, and your laces can't be loose. Okay, so first of all, protect your assets. Okay, but then that's a key point. Okay, once you protected your assets, you really need to think. Okay, how and what would they do eventually with their ingenious mind, okay, if your product is a potentially good product for the market and they'd love to take it over.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very important strategy action that need to be taken seriously. You really need to put it down on paper and say, okay, let's go. We put our product on Tmall, so we got the, you know, an extensive audience that see the brand, the product, and so on. But what happened on the offline retail channels? Okay, so what should we do, or what could other people do? Okay, on the other hand, okay, did I really protect all of my assets? Okay, because you know, my brand is Domenica, and everybody knows me by my Western characters, you know, DOM, AC, and so on. Okay, how about the Chinese version of a name? Did we invest enough on it? I mean, did we put the parallel things? You know, so Domenica means also Domenica. Okay, is it the Chinese name as strong as the English one? Okay, and so we need to plan things. Okay, should we invest on the Chinese name with the correct Chinese character and make it become our leading project? So, or should we invest and keep investing on our standard European names? Okay, so these things, you know, will draw down a map which can bring you on faulty points, because on everything you choose, I can find out a way to turn around and make a side business using your effort and getting the advantages, just because I have a Chinese mentality that I used to do it. Okay, and it's not a tricky mentality. It's not that they like to, you know, cheat on you. This is not the case. The market is huge. You know, it's 1.4 billion people waiting there to enjoy your products. So you will never be able to take it all, but you can make it on a different level. You can make of your products a consumer experience that people will go back and look for it. On the other hand, if you just focus on what it is, the standard marketing strategies, okay, there will be someone else who will make of your effort his goals. So you need to really think sideways. You really need to think in a different, and it's case by case. Doesn't matter if it is a B2B products or a B2C products. You know, it's always how good you are on your product placement on the market that turns out to be a success, that turns out to be your return of the investment. Okay, and you need to really work hard on it. It's not a one-day trip. It's a long trip. Usually, what I do, I sign contracts for at least not less than 18 months with my customers. Build up a China expert team within the company that I'm working with, okay? And I transfer all the information that they need to focus on. Someone on the marketing, someone on the tools, and somebody else on the strategies. And when I talk about strategies, Domenica, this is a very wide word that means a lot of things. But if you think about the Chinese words for strategies can also be translated into stratagems. These open up an entire new world to you, because if you think about the stratagems, then that means, you know, for Westerners, it means it's a turnaround. You know, it's a way to get to a certain point, sometimes following an off-road path. Okay, and this is exactly what we need to understand. There are off-road paths which sometimes are more successful than others. And these are the paths that the Chinese will use most likely to reach the goals. Okay, so we should be able to use the same things. Succeeding in China means working as the Chinese. Do as the Romans do when you are in Rome. Okay, so play as the Chinese would play when you are in China. And to do that, you foreigners, me foreigners, I wasn't able to do that when I got to China in 1988. I had to learn the hard way, you know, just failing and getting up again and confusing and getting lost and feeling lost and going like, why the hell did it turn out that way? It was all perfect. Okay. But then there were reasons and really glitches that I could catch every time and understand exactly when things turn out to be versus me rather than pro me. Okay, so this is what I do. I'm telling people exactly what they could expect. So as I said before to you privately, sometimes I look like a wizard with a crystal sphere, you know, with a crystal ball. And I said, okay, this is what is going to happen. And nobody will never know if we follow my suggestions and it works. We will never know what would have happened if we followed another way. But we certainly know that if they don't follow my suggestions, okay, then what happens is that they go into the same problems. And it's always so sad to say, like, oh, I told you before. And and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating because it's telling people, watch out, there is a hole, there is a gap, mind the gap, don't fall in the gap, look at the gap, there is, you know, keep telling people still, you know, even in London Tube, we keep saying, you keep listening to please mind the gap, okay? And they keep telling every single train, okay? And still there are people that fall into the gap. And this is exactly what happened when you go to China. You keep telling people, please mind the gap. And the gap is there, they all see it, they all know it, but you got the smartest guy in the class still.
It's so true. I mean, I would say 90% of the time we're helping brands that have had their fingers burnt by doing it the cheap way, or by doing it using an intern, or sending over a Brit who doesn't speak the language and doesn't understand anything about China, and just basically winging it. And interestingly, it's the really agile brands, it's the really, quite often, what I call the challenger brands, not the brands at the beginning or at the top of their category that are doing really well in China. Because as a business, they're quicker, they're smarter, they take advice, the whole board work collaboratively together. Whereas if you look at some of the really huge brands in the UK that have gone to China and have failed by just having an assumption that they have dominated the world, so China has got to be the same but a different language, and then they retreat 6 months later, and it's known impossible then to go back into China and be successful, because people remember. And if you talked about naming, you know, if your name is wrong in Chinese and has a connotation that is either funny or rude, it's not really going to sell your product. In fact, it's going to be, you're going to be the laughing stock. And so many brands have done that basic mistake. Or, as you've said, not protect a certain name in Chinese. And China is unbelievably good at manufacturing. That's why it's the manufacturing hub of the world. So if you've got a product that's not protected, of course somebody's going to copy it, and they'll copy it better, and they'll copy it a lot less expensively than you do, and their logistics will be quicker. So you then have to answer, well, what do I have that's better than them?
I mean, Domenica, I was in manufacturing myself. I designed the products, and I had my own factory in China. I had 400 people working for me, and I was cheated, if you want to say so, okay, by my own employees. Actually, they didn't cheat. They just, you know, talked to someone else who just copied it and made it even better than mine, and definitely cheaper. And their time to market was faster than mine, simply because, you know, I tried to make a perfect product for the time being. And, you know, we used to say perfect is not fast enough. They were faster than me. And then they got the market shares pretending to be me, that work it out. And I had simply to shut down my operation, you know, lose a lot of money, and then crying on my injuries, crying on myself. But that was, you know, that was a big lesson for me at that time. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. It's one of my several failures in China. Obviously, one of the most expensive one, but also one of the most of the biggest investment I could have ever done. This is where the strength of what I say is, you know, has a value, because when I talk to people, I don't bring things which I read on books. I read books every day on China, about China, international strategies, marketing, and so on. And I keep updated myself very much about every single thing that happen in the market, okay? But the most valuable examples I can bring are always those ones that happen to me directly. I put the energy and the suffering of the pain that I went through, so that people understand that it's really not just, you know, a failure, you know, because everybody talk about failing like, you know, as long as you get up and still running, you know, it's just a fall. It's not a fall. A failure is an humiliation that you have, you know, for people who have enough pride to be able at 19 years old to go to China and say, I'm going to conquer the world. Okay, so you can imagine how it's bad when the world replied to you like, you know, you're not ready for me. And that's the point. Okay, so when I take care of my customers, I'm going to tell them, okay, let's try to be ready for the market. The market is there, you know. Yes, I believe there is a space for you. Yes, I believe there will be a return of investment. Yes, there is a strategy we can pursue. Okay. Yes, there are tips and tricks we can use. Okay, but yet we will be fair to the market, fair to the consumers, to the customers, and we will be obviously not going to waste any cents of the budget that we put on it. And these are three things that are very, very important for customers to know. Be fair to the consumer, be fair to the market, and not wasting money. Money is an important asset, and we all need it to make it a return.
I agree. And I think just to finish up, it's about having a plan. It's about working with experts. It's about learning from their mistakes. Having, you know, myself and yourself, we've worked in the market for so long. You have to be very agile, especially at the moment. So whatever your plan was maybe 3 years ago, you're going to have to constantly pivot.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, China changes its mind or changes legislation every day. Something's happening today. Exactly, that you have to constantly change and be that sort of business that can be agile. And if you're a business that is not and takes 3 months to make a decision, China is not for you. And it's also about speed. So just speed to get to the consumer and speed to adapt. That has got to be a massive part of your culture to be successful in China. I'm going to finish up today now because we could talk for hours as we do, but I'm conscious that this is going to be paid as a podcast as well as a vlog, and if you go over half an hour you've lost people. So in order to contact you, if anybody has questions or wants to talk to you about entering China,
I'm available. Absolutely, I'm available on LinkedIn, but I think that the best way is to contact with you, Domenica. It's your audience that's listening to you. And you can call me in any time. I'll be very happy to help you out and sort out the situation and maybe have meetings with your customers. I mean, it's going to be okay for me.
So from our standpoint, follow us on LinkedIn and also follow us on YouTube. I'm always posting videos, vlogs, conversations. So follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube. We're always posting webinars and videos. We are a marketing consultancy. We work with brands all over the world to be successful in China. And we work with partners all the time. And it's great to have you on the show today. And thank you so, so much. And I will be seeing you soon, I'm sure, in China.
Absolutely. I loved it.
Dust off my passport.
We're all waiting for you know, they open up new flights from Swiss Air and KLM twice a week to Shanghai. But still there is a problem. Once you get in China, you know, you need to have a full forced quarantine. So it's going to be a pain.
Yeah, I'm waiting. There's not a lot of point in going for a week's business trip to see my team, to quarantine for 2 weeks and to be there for a week. So I'm waiting until I can get back out there and see everybody. But have a wonderful day and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Domenica. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.